Everyone, thanks for listening to my thoughts about Module 3. So I wanted to start off just overall, it was interesting, kind of a little bit of a change of pace, a little change of gears as far as where we had been talking to where we are and kind of we're moving forward. But wanted to start us off with a conversation specifically with, or in regards to the intersectionality approach, as mentioned in the Jones text, specifically in Chapter 6. And what I really wanted to kind of highlight with that one is how interesting and how unique it was in making some bigger connections to some of the identity theories that we've read previously, and helping to provide some clarity as to what is the purpose of understanding these identities and how they work with each other, and particularly seeing that intersectionality, really what it is, boils down to is recognizing the complexity of those individuals, and realizing that you can't just take this one little identity that you have and isolate that, how it is impacted by every other identity that you might have, and especially with the focus and the goal, and I think it's really relevant to higher education professionals, is that the goal of intersectionality is helping to dismantle the structural inequalities, helping promote social justice, particularly within the student body as well as on campus there. And thought it was really just kind of an interesting, as well, on how it connects and relates to kind of the race and ethnic issues that society, particularly as we read in this the text this week, particularly in American society, how we've struggled with that. And a lot of it is too is just on this focus or lack of understanding, this inability to have this knowledge about this other group or other groups, and realizing how one position that you might have influences another in regards to your race or your social class or anything else like that. And one of the things that I did want to do a quick quote on it, and especially kind of connecting back to intersectionality, just because I thought it was so interesting, and particularly thinking about who we are, was a quote on page 141 from Shields in the Jones book, that really talks about how there's no single identity category that satisfactorily describes how we respond to our social environment or responded to by others. It's important to begin with this observation because current about intersectionality from a theoretical or research perspective has grown directly out of the way in which multiple identities are experienced. So really I thought that was really cool because it really talked about how you kind of live that experience and enjoy that there. And especially kind of taking the Jones text a little bit further and kind of application to, what is our purpose, as a student affairs professionals, and particularly even relating back to our student athlete advising experience on really what we're doing is we're having this effort, ourselves as well as for them, to help better understand others, and you better understand somebody else when you have that relationship with them. When you work with them, you're able to ask those questions about kind of who they are, and helping remove any of those barriers that you might have or those preconceived notions about a particular person or a group of people, in any of those different ways there. So, and especially kind of tie a little bit up, I really kind of was really interested on how intersectionality relates to kind of race, and how, and particularly in the chapters really in the Evans book, really talk about more of that individual identity, but they recognize that intersectionality is important, within understanding the racial identity or the ethnic identity. And one of the little quotes that I love, and I'm a lover of a good quote, and it was by W.E.B. Du Bois, who mentions the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line, and really putting into perspective on what are those challenges that society has continually faced, as far as for the struggles with race. Is it white versus black, or is it even male versus female, and all of these different things, and the privileges that are associated with that dominant class, or the dominant group, and really how we kind of have to challenge that. So I think that's it's interesting to see and kind of great to put in perspective when we focus on assessment, and focus on improving the services that each university provides, by focusing on this particular subgroup, of people, and really recognize that at the end of the day, we're trying to do what we can to better serve all students, all people on campus, and also have to recognize, based on some of the theories about racial identity development and even the ethnic identity, that we can't just group people into this one title. We can't just say, well, the black student body. Well, within that black student body or African American student body, there's so many different groups of people that we kind of have to recognize and validate there. So I think overall, and that's where I kind of go back to that intersectionality, it's recognizing that uniqueness and the complexity of the individual, to kind of repeat myself there, and that we really kind of have to put that focus on there and put ourselves in someone else's shoes to understand. And I think it's a really great practice, on gaining those empathy skills by understanding where someone's coming from, by asking them questions, by saying, hey, I want to just first and foremost say, I don't understand, but I want to know. Help me to understand. Here's how I see things. Here's where I'm coming from. So overall, I don't know, quit kind of going on my ramble there. But overall, some really interesting some readings this week, particularly interested to see how each of those different identities kind of plays a different role within society and within the individual there. So I look forward to hearing everyone else's post.